All right, what's going on, boys and girls? So this particular video is not going to be Linux technology or gaming related. It came up on my YouTube because I'm originally from Maine, for those that don't know, and it caught my interest. It says the top 10 reasons not to move to Maine. This is not the place for young people, and this is by, I believe, a guy called The World According to Biggs, something like that, Briggs. So let's see what he has to say. I don't know if homeboy's from Maine. He might be, he might not be. Small problem with that is, for a state as big as it is, there's only 1.3 million people that live in that state. The state is the size of the rest of New England. So let's roll into it. Briggs, what do you got to say about Maine and why it's not to move there?
What is going on, everyone? How about we take a look at Maine? In case you don't know where it is, here it is. And that would make it the most northeastern state in the United States, and at one point was part of Massachusetts. The formal succession of Maine occurred March 15th, 1820, making it the 23rd state.
So, history lesson for those that don't know, that was the Missouri Compromise.
Maine isn't a very crowded place and it has plenty of wilderness, so if you're a camper, this is probably the best place to go. Maine has a low cost of living and the lowest crime stats in all
Low cost of living. Have you looked at real estate prices in Portland? Have you looked at rental prices outside of Portland or around the metropolitan suburbia version of Portland? Apparently not. When you have to work basically 2 full-time jobs or have roommates or a significant other working as well just to pay your rent, you are sadly mistaken about what is considered low cost. Because are you factoring in the 6 months of winter that you're going to get? Wow. Low cost it is not. If you go above Augusta, above Bangor, start heading up into Presque Isle and up that way, that is where you are going to find cheaper places to live. But the problem with that is you also are going to find this weird thing called lack of people, so lack of jobs. It's a funny thing. If you actually live there, you might have known that. Maine always comes in last when it comes to economy as far as business friendliness of states, and it is one of the highest tax states.
categories, violent property, and corrections of all the United States. And it's also seen a migration over the last few years. Not your average migration of young people following music or jobs. This migration is the exact opposite. Retirees looking to save money and not be assaulted or robbed. And actually, they don't want to hear your music. Maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe Maine is the ideal place for you. But before you fold up your walker and start mapping out restaurants with the best senior discounts and early bird specials, you should watch my top 10 reasons not to move to Maine. Number 10. Strange laws. Now, this one really isn't a reason you shouldn't move someplace, but if you are moving someplace, it's always a good idea to kind of look at these things because they give you a good idea how the people in each state think. So I like using them here. All states have some strange laws, but Maine makes the extra effort and actually enforces some of them. Here's one of my favorites. You could receive a fine for leaving your Christmas lights up after January 14th. They actually enforce that one. I know a guy here in Oregon that I'm sure would be arrested by now. It is June 2018. I know for a fact his Christmas lights are up, and I guarantee they'll be on tonight. He actually turns them on. Most people just leave them up and don't turn them on. He turns on his lights every single night. My other favorite is bullets are never to be used as currency in the state of Maine. Never thought of that being something I'd do. But apparently not.
I didn't realize we were part of the Metro game series. I know that reference might fly over Briggs's head here. As far as the bullets are not currency, that's probably from back a long time ago in the early days of the state. My understanding is that that particular law is not enforced. And if it is, like, that wow. Most people are not that fucking stupid, to put it simple. Bullets use this currency. As far as the other one, I can tell this is going to be a bad video. God help me. For those that don't know, this is the opinion of someone who has book researched things. Research, because even if you look at the research, you would have known cost of living is not cheap, you idiot. Second of all, experience always trumps. Personal experience always trumps like what a third-hand account is. That's just what it is.
Enough people did it in Maine where they actually had to make a law about it at some point. Number 9. Divorce. Don't move to Maine unless you're single and plan on being an unrestricted free agent for life. Maine has the second highest divorce rate in the country at 14.2%. That's right behind Nevada at 14.6%. See, the problem is in Nevada, you're always out and about and you find other options. In Maine, you get stuck inside during winter with another person and you dream of other options. Number 8. The uncharitable type.
Yeah, the dream of other options is what people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Maine has 1.3 million people. What's the population of Nevada? A whole lot more. So any statistic, so 14% on a state that's 1.3 million people total is going to be a lot different percentage-wise. So you're going to have a smaller amount of divorces based on however many marriages. And when you only have 1.3 million people that live in the damn state, of course it's going to be a higher percentage. Basic math. Nevada, higher population. They have more divorces. So you're going to see correlation. What an idiot.
Types. Maine is one of the least giving states. It has the third lowest charitable donation rate in the country at only 2%. They even have laws against feeding deer. These people don't like helping anything out. Now this...
Yeah. Wow. Do you understand why people have laws against feeding deer? It's because then they become domesticated and people will shoot them. Apparently you don't live in a state that has guns because Maine is a hunting culture. So there are bear trapping laws. That's why you can't bait deer, bear, etc. That's why it's baiting. You're not supposed to do it. If you are from any of these areas, you would understand this. This is this is country living. I lived in southern Maine or closer to Portland than I did, say, Cherryfield or Patton or any of the other, Rangeley, or people want to question if I'm actually from there. When you start just calling your township and number, township 41, township blah, blah, blah. And when you go from school districts, SAD 61, or, Portland or X, Y, or Z, and you start going to school unions, I'm kind of from there.
This one isn't really that big of a deal and shouldn't really stop you from going there. It's another one that kind of tells you what kind of people you might be dealing with if you do move to Maine.
Just one other thing. As far as the charitable donations, Toys for Tots, there's a lot of stuff that people do up there that you won't see. I remember back during the 98 ice storm, and about 3/4 of the state was without power. I was in a restaurant with my family. I was, 14? I was in the restaurant with my family, and a bunch of the power line guys came in. CMP, for those that, Central Maine Power, for those that don't know. And they got a standing ovation and meals on the house because the people respected what they were doing and trying to do. You're basically fighting fucking Mother Nature. So I disagree with your lack of charitable donations.
Number 7, seafood. If you don't like seafood, don't move to Maine. It's that simple. These people are nuts about seafood. Seafood feels more like a religion in some parts of Maine than, say, a dinner option. No.
Seafood is a big part of the state, yes. If you are in the coastal towns, Bar Harbor, sorry, Baja, if you want the Maine accent. The fact of the matter is, coastal towns, they live and die. A lot of them live and die based off fishing, lobstering, clamming, etc. Like that is a whole industry on of itself. Yeah, you go up north, you got blueberries, you got potatoes, and you got a bunch of other stuff that go on up there. So yes, seafood is a part of the culture. If you're on the coast, try going up north. Try going to the county. For those that don't know what the county is, there's this big portion on the crown of Maine called Aroostook County. So anybody from the state of Maine will just simply call it the county.
Number 6. Dangerous roads. The roads can be dangerous in Maine. Now, I'm not saying the roads are in bad shape. They're actually in pretty good shape. It's what happens on those roads that are dangerous. Winter driving can be a bad thing in Maine. Black ice happens quite a bit in Maine. Besides that, you might have to dodge a deer, a raccoon, a langolier, a black bear, or even a frickin' moose. If you hit one of those, you'll be in total misery. If you're not already in the dead zone, the moose will make it stand, and then if you hit it, you're not going to be able to take it to the pet cemetery. It's far too big. Number 5.
Homie, you take that chance anytime you drive anywhere. Barring the moose, or that's kind of unique to Maine. And I'm not gonna lie though, as far as like actually seeing a moose, if you live in southern Maine, you'll see them. You're not gonna see them that often. If you go to northern Maine, that's a different story. Go up to Greenville or any of that stuff, you'll see plenty of moose up there. There's some stories I got about that. The school I went to, a bunch of dumb teenagers chasing after a moose and piling out of a van and chasing after it with aluminum baseball bats. We're kids. We do stupid shit. You know, the fact of the matter is, dangerous roads are going to be anywhere. It's just how, are you a good driver or a bad driver? That's really what it boils down to. And the experience of that system. I can tell you, moving to where I have, there's a lot of people who, there's an inch of snow on the ground, they suck at driving. Maine, oh, there's a foot of snow, go to work. Why are you calling out? They don't care. It's a way of life up there. You just learn to adapt.
Moxie. Moxie is a carbonated beverage that was among one of the first mass-produced soft drinks in the United States. This stuff is big in Maine, and honestly, I don't know why. This stuff is vile. It tastes like Coke mixed with root beer and then left out till it was almost flat, and then they added a few drops of Windex. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not trying to be funny. That's what I thought when I tasted that stuff. I don't get this one at all. This stuff is gross.
Moxie. Do you have Moxie? This is where that particular saying comes from. As far as the picture that he's showing there, the Moxie on the front, there's actually an energy drink portion as well. The best, from somebody who actually lives there and has actually tasted it, take root beer, take Coke. That's what it tastes like. Then there's the aftertaste of like what you would get with a Dr. Pepper. It's a sugary kind of sweet when it goes down, and then you're like, oh, aftertaste, Dr. Pepper. That's kind of the best analogy. There's no Windex. You know, people make a lot of jokes about it being motor oil and it'll, grow hair on your chest and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's the only reason it's a big thing in Maine. It's a local beverage. It's no different than any local brew company, making a local beer. It just happens to be a Maine-made soda.
Number 4, the snow. The snow gets bad here. Don't move to Maine unless you have a four-wheel drive vehicle or are willing to buy one. The average annual snowfall is in between 50 and 70 inches. However, it can get worse depending on where you are in the state. You could easily see 110 inches of snow a year. That's nuts. That's a lot of frickin' snow. This is another state that you should probably keep some supplies in your car in case of a winter breakdown. Something to eat, something to drink, Maybe a book. Not a Stephen King book. Nobody needs to be stuck overnight in their car after reading a really scary book, like Misery or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of a nightmare right there, just thinking about that. I would not be able to sleep. Number 3.
Yes, you should keep a emergency blanket. You should keep an extra jacket. You should keep some hats, and et cetera, et cetera. You don't keep drinks because they freeze. Novel idea. Though part of me wants to ask you to drink maybe antifreeze. This is just more ignorance. Like, if you break down, yes, have some extra stuff. That's just like common sense shit, though. As far as the amount of snow, yes, snow sucks in Maine. Southern Maine, manageable-ish. Northern Maine, the county, and that, heading up that direction, you want 6 months of snow, you will get 6 months of nothing but. Great skiing, though. So, yeah, half the reason I moved was because of the 6 months of winter. I would say probably the county probably has like 7 months and 6 of it snow. So, like, as far as the Stephen King thing, for the love of God, like, I don't even know what people want me to say. Go to Bangor, he's got a house there. He's got a house over in Level that's on kind of the outskirts of Freiburg and out that way. Like, if you live there, it's not that big of a deal. You'll see him around some of the smaller towns in Maine. You're just like, oh, hey, dude. And he's creepy as shit in life, real life, but you just kind of let him go about his business. No one really cares if you're from there.
Not too many people. Maine doesn't have a lot of residents. Its largest city is Portland, and it only has about 66,000 people. For some people, that's a great thing, but others, they hate it. A subscriber named Kari said that it's nice when it comes to traffic, but when it comes to dating, it really sucks. She said you can't date anyone that doesn't know your ex or the last person you dated. She also said that Tinder sucks in Maine. It takes less than 2 minutes to run out of all your Tinder options. That sucks. Number 2. Housing is costly.
Yes and no. It depends, as far as the Tinder thing, it depends on how big you put your radius, jackass. Most Mainers are not going to be like, I'm only going to date in Portland. Most people that live in these rural states, they'll drive 25, 30 miles, and they don't think anything of it because that's just the way of life. I worked in one spot where I would drive 35 miles one way to work. Rain, sleet, snow, or shine. No one cared. It was 35 miles back. 78 miles to go to work every day to drive yourself. So it doesn't matter really at the end of the day. Mainers are used to driving. If you live in these real estates, you are used to driving. As far as well, I know this person and that person and this person, it's no different if you go into like an actual city. You're going to end up running into people that you may know or cordially know or somehow know or et cetera, et cetera. So, like, it's a moot point. Are you telling me if you go to a stadium with 67,000 people, you're going to know every single person that's ever been there if you go in day in and day out? No.
Rent is outrageous in Portland. A 900 square foot apartment in Portland is almost $1,900 a month, while a 1,300 square foot single family home is about $2,400 a month. If you do go outside the
but a cheap cost of living. Idiot. Cost of living also includes having a place to live.
City of Portland and Bangor and some of the other ones, it gets a lot.
It's not Bangor. Do not be Joshua Chamberlain from the movie Gettysburg. Bangor. Bangor. Not hard. It's like you're trying to enunciate a Maine accent and you're doing a terrible fucking job at it. So, first off, if you're going to do a Maine accent, anything with an R, they don't know how to pronounce. Car is car. Let's go. Dude, get in the car. Let's go. Stuff like that. That is a Maine accent. And one tell you'll find that someone's from Maine is if they say something is wicked, but it's also good. Just, dude, that's wicked good. That's wicked cool. They use wicked as like a positive for it, saying that's awesome, basically.
A lot cheaper, around $650 for a one-bedroom apartment. Now, that's not to be confused with cost of living. Cost of living is pretty cheap as far as utilities and other things. It's just the rent and house prices are through the roof. And please, stop typing. I know where you live, these numbers don't match. Your rent is so much cheaper and you have a 6-bedroom place on an acre with a private water park, and the property comes with a robot lifeguard that's there 24 hours a day for you. Good for you. This is the average. Stop.
Cost of living is how much it actually costs to live there. From utilities to the place that you're living in. So if it's $1,300 for a single bedroom apartment in Portland, newsflash, most of those places aren't going to include things like kerosene or natural gas, so you're paying that. You're paying CMP or Bangor or Hydro for your electric. You're paying, I believe now it's Charter, because I believe once you hit Bangor it's Charter, and if I believe on this other southern portion of the state is Comcast, if I am not mistaken. And just wow. Apparently we have a very different point of view of what cost of living. How much does it cost for me to live here?
Typing. And number 1, it's not for young people. Maine is a very, very popular retirement destination. Because of this, the state has more elderly residents than any other state. This could be good and this could be bad. It's good if you're retired. If most of the people around you are retired, that means more people have a bunch of time on their hands and won't mind you striking up a 10-minute conversation with the grocery store checker while you're in line behind them. And you'll have more people that agree with you when you say the country is going downhill and it was so much better when you were young. Maine has all the trappings of a retirement community. All that being said, if you're young, you probably should get out of there. There's better places to live if you're under the age of 35. Head down the coast. Go to Boston. Go to New York. Something. Come.
Okay, so the fact that I paused on this particular image is quite honestly because his argument is falling down slowly as far as his reasons. If you are under 35, Maine is not the best state for you. As someone who's 35 and moved out of Maine 5 years ago, I can tell you why. If you are into technology, you have, I believe it is Fairchild, and it was National Semiconductor, but Texas Instruments. Those are your tech industries. Those are in South Portland. That's your tech. If you are a creative person, that's a different story. The Old Port in Portland is one of the most creative places that you will find for artists and creators, etc. It has a decent music scene. It has Southern Maine, and in that regards, is very well situated for creators. Romantic sunsets and the lighthouse pictures of the Portland Headlight and all the other stuff. It's great. But if you are into tech, or if you're into the modern, if you're into things that are gonna drive the future and you're not interested in, I'm not gonna say manual labor, if you're not interested in fishing, and if you're not interested in those type of tech fields that are available that the state provides, then you, and besides maybe Wyndham Weaponry or the few other companies that are kicking around that make firearms up there for the military, Maine is a tough state to live in. Yeah, like legit, like outside of retail, you are not going to find much to work that is going to give you a high-paying job. And that's the rub with that state. The reason there's a brain drain isn't just because of the simple fact that the people just want out. That's part of it. People want out because there's no opportunity for people who are technologically inclined. That's why I moved. As far as the recommendation for Boston and New York, any Mainer, any Maina that ever lived in that state will tell you there's one reason that people from Mass are called massholes. Because they are from Massachusetts and they are the biggest stack of assholes. Generically, Boston. As far as New York, most Mainers aren't going to like New York just because of the environment they grew up in. It's too much of a culture shock. But like legit, like go to Philly, go somewhere that like Mainers are going to appreciate history and culture, but they're also going to get overwhelmed and lost if they go into like New York as their first stop. So the reason for the brain drain is cost of living. The reason for the brain drain is lack of opportunities, the lack of technologically inclined jobs. For me, it was the 6 months of winter that drove me finally the fuck away. There are a lot of reasons there's a brain drain for younger people in the state of Maine. As far as retirees, they're there for the good months. If you notice, they're pretty much all there for the good months. And all the images you've shown, the rest of them are what we call snowbirds. They go to Florida. They have 2 homes. They're in retirement. That's what it is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Come back to Maine when you're 55 or 65. Nowadays, that's a better deal since Florida is such a nightmare. Alright, so that's it. That's the top 10 reasons not to move to Maine. This one was a tough one. Maine doesn't have a lot wrong with it. I mean, I struggled on this one, just like Wisconsin and a couple other ones, to find reasons not to move there. So some of them might be a little light. Sorry. I'm only human.
It's not about your content, like the reasoning being light. It's just like the reasoning is dumb. It's not a solid reason to not move to the X, Y, or Z place. And in this case, it's Maine. Like, a lot of these are presumptuous. A lot of these are a difference in what certain things are, i.e. cost of living. So, unless you live in it, though, these videos to me are like so... You can't speak on it. Because it's from ignorance. It's oh, I researched this. Well, just because you research it doesn't mean you know it. You don't know the nuances. You don't know the ins and outs. And that's the thing. So to me, this is like a Lunduke video to me. It's like, or a Chris Ties Tech video. Like, to me, this particular video is one of those where it's like, there's some knowledge in it, but there's a lot of dumb in it too, because it lacks the nuance, it lacks the actual experience of somebody who's actually been there. So with that, I know this is a little different of a video. Like I said, it caught my interest because being from Maine, I wanted to give my perspective. At the end of the day, what do you guys think? Where would you like to move? Where would you not like to move? Comment below. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the flip.